Welcome to Board Ghost, a story broadcast with games as the engine.
If living is a highway, then heaven is a bus stop. Been waiting for a minute there, but has it been forever? 'Cause dying don't agree with me.
We believe you're out there, hungry for stories for shared experience. We can't see you, can't hear you, yet we will play for you. This night's offering is Downfall. To learn how we generate stories playing the game of Downfall, go check out our Downfall Rules Primer. Our players, myself, John Holt, with me.
Ken Breeze.
And D. Gailey.
Also, I want to just kind of at the front of the thing, shout out to our Patreon. If you are one of our patrons, you should be getting both of these episodes as soon as we get them edited and up. So hopefully before the rest of the public. If you would like to get similar things as well as artwork and some exclusive how to play videos that we'll be releasing over the course of time, go check out our Patreon at patreon.com/boardghost. Downfall by Caroline Hobbs is a world that's specifically for 3 players. We're going to create a world, and then with the hero, you're taking turns playing the hero, we're going to play through the collapse of this world as it destroys itself, or we destroy it trying to save it. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is figure out our flaw.
I was thinking of lust.
So our lust is our flaw. Yeah, so next we're going to think of an element. So what do we got?
Ink. I was drawn to that.
I picked muscle.
All right, I have oil. So what we want to do is kind of find a way that these work together in our world. Start to build the world from how do these elements play into...
Is the haven in the side of some great beast?
That's
Like-
kind of what I was imagining. Like muscle forms like the
world.
world somehow.
The haven is formed of muscle.
Yeah, I was almost kind of feeling, because I'm in the same vein, like we're in this lumbering colossus.
Yeah.
But it's like mechanical muscle, like those, like it's this almost like a bio or not totally organic. Like the muscles are some sort of like plastic or rubber that's just like slick with oil and like and gets this sort of like industrial, like it's this lumbering I don't know about automaton, but some sort of like lumbering, like what are those like they're working on those now, where it's like an artificial muscle almost, something that can expand and contract with like electricity. And
So it is a huge fabricated creature that we're in, like a...
yeah, or like even,
like,
I mean, it could be like a combination where it's like there are parts that are like it's...
That's a trip.
Like
Okay,
replaced by bits.
Okay.
Like
so it's like
maybe-
enhanced and
like-
sewn together.
I was thinking of ink, like maybe as like the blood of the creature, and then like maybe the muscle is like part, like the scaffolding's artificial, but the muscle is like grown in labs, but is made of like actual cells,
Yeah.
but synthetically made.
That's cool.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, like we grow the replacements or whatever. We grow stuff to refit this thing that we're traveling around in.
What if the ink is like there's this sort of like flow of oil in motion, like there's just this sort of dripping like combination of organic matter and like scaffold and structure, like this,
for lubrication.
yeah, so
Some
it's
of
just
it's
always kind of like dripping
Yeah.
this oil, and it's like full and pulsing with it. And then the ink is how we interface with the world. So like when you want to send communication or like send ideas, you write on the muscle and it like flows.
Well, so that's funny that
through.
you're talking about writing on the muscle, because when I originally chose ink, it really evoked for me tattoos. And so maybe that there's something there where that's why we're having to replace stuff, is that we tattoo stuff onto this muscle, and then we have to grow more and replace what was once there for some reason.
Maybe like
a
the
clean
oil,
slate.
the flowing, like I imagine the oil like as part of the system, but it's imperfect, so that's why it's constantly like oozing out and getting places.
Right.
So maybe it's like the combination of the oil sloughing off the tattooing and like sort of going
All
back
right,
and forth.
so
I
we've
don't
got
know.
some
what is
ideas
the-
here.
yeah,
Got some ideas
I guess-
here. You got to tighten them up. Yeah, we got
So
some good ideas.
we kind of have all right. This massive like hulking automaton.
Yeah,
this
it's
thing. It's
basically-
like a semi-organic beast creature.
I was seeing like a Tyrannosaurus Rex type creature, like big leg, 2 legs, and it
Or
doesn't.
just
need-
like the legs.
That's what I mean.
Like,
It could just be the legs, and
Yeah.
we're just living on the top of it.
Yeah.
Though I kind of like the idea that we live on the side of something, like
Yeah,
we're almost like
I guess
parasites.
I'm kind of seeing like an amalgam creature where it's like
so go
it's like a yak without a head and
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
like, I don't think it has
Okay.
a head.
and it has
That's
like
sick.
It
Yeah,
has
yeah,
like
yeah.
3 legs.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's like a couple of vestigial limbs that are
Yes.
like, if one of these legs falls off, it will be like it'll
It
eventually
could
have
come.
grown
It could
into
come
an
back
extra leg.
down to be an extra
So
leg.
it's this thing that you
What
just
a
kind of
trip.
add on to.
Yeah.
So there are patches that are like covered in fur.
I
It might
love
get
it.
like stripped down to scales or like
Whatever.
other
Yeah,
stuff,
but
but it's all about what you need. Like if it's in
Yeah.
a cold, if you're traveling through or in a cold period,
then the fur.
the fur. But if
becomes
you're like
important.
if you need reflection and like heat or like conservation of
So
of
do we
moisture.
live underneath the quote unquote skin, but above the quote unquote muscle? Do we is that where our society exists?
like a subcutaneous?
Subcutaneous society, basically.
I feel like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe the environment is hazardous somehow.
Yeah. Or I mean, we travel to
Slightly.
in different environments, so we always have to adapt.
Right.
Or
Or, like,
do
we
we
just don't
control
know.
where it goes? Or
I don't think
I don't
so.
think we do,
not.
right?
I think it's like kind of Snowpiercer.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like it just travels, and we're just on it.
I mean, that's like the orbit of our world,
Exactly.
right? It's just
Right.
like
Yeah.
we don't have control over that.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Maybe the ink, because we can't we don't have portholes out or like clear ways to see out, that the ink is actually almost like constellations, like what
Yeah.
the external environment writes on the skin.
I like that because then the idea then is they're going still with the tattooing that we're tattooing the subcutaneous skin. It's like we're tattooing like our sky or whatever.
Right. Or yeah, like we've grown
Or-
this thing to be reactive.
Yes.
So that we've built it to write itself.
Yes. Yeah.
As
cool,
we go.
cool, cool.
So like it almost tracks.
it tracks what's outside.
Right.
Oh, that's cool.
Because we can't see outside.
Right.
Right.
So gross.
It's
I
like
love it.
photoreceptive because
Yeah.
it's like a synthetic beast, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So, but it's
Like bios.
octopuses and like other kinds of creatures like that can change color based on their
Yeah,
environment. So
exactly.
that kind of translates to the inside where we can see it.
Oh my God. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So now we've built our element. We've kind of described our world. So now we're going to generate our traditions. So our traditions, you're basically going to choose a category. So first you'll do a category, then we'll create the tradition, then we'll add the symbol, then we'll repeat.
Communication.
Okay. I have birth.
Nice.
I
was thinking
have
about that.
relationship.
Mine's communication, and so mine is making out occupies the space of most traditional greetings.
You just meet someone and you make out.
Yeah. Yeah, like instead of saying hi or good morning or whatever,
Just like
can-
consistent physical.
it's a lot of making out.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
I have birth. Everyone carries reproductive organs,
Huh.
and pregnancy is constant and common, and it is actually odd to not be pregnant.
It's odd or is it uncommon? Like
It's odd. Like
okay.
like
Okay.
it's sort of
Got
like
it. Good. There's no reason you shouldn't be.
if you I mean the only
Is that
it's
the
sort
idea?
of it's sort of like people who are at a bar who don't drink.
Right.
right?
Okay. Okay.
It's not like taboo.
No.
It's
but-
not like
It's odd.
it's not
Got
turned
it.
it's not looked down upon, but it's sort of but
I
you might
love
get
this.
you might get questions about it.
Amazing.
And
Yeah.
unless people know you, they may not know like
Yeah.
oh, okay, you can't drink because of a medical condition or whatever. Okay, that's cool.
Mhm.
Whatever. Drink your orange juice and have fun. This is like, oh, okay, so you had an injury and you can't reproduce. That's okay. Don't worry about like it's not it doesn't make you a pariah,
No. No.
but
It's weird.
It's
but it's
odd.
like, oh, okay, it's not it's not commonplace, but it's like a little like okay, you're like you don't quite belong still. Like it's not commonplace in that it's like not unique, but you also like you don't totally fit in kind of thing.
Mhm.
Like it's not the society's not built for you in a way, weird
Mhm.
way. Like being left-handed.
My category is relationship. So I was thinking that emotional attachment is like taboo between partners.
Oh.
So you're encouraged to have relationships with lots of different people, but if ever something like love or like jealousy or like any of those, like that is considered to be like taboo. Or
Ooh.
so if you ever were to have those feelings, you would not be able to have a relationship with that person anymore.
So there's
So even
no
revealing those.
so there's no monogamy. There's none of that.
No,
Yeah.
that would be something that would be frowned upon. That would be taboo.
Right.
Right, because that would imply like
Yes.
But even beyond that, like having possessive feelings in any
Right.
way, shape, or form is
Mhm.
like, whoa, we don't do that here.
right.
Okay.
Hmm.
Kenji got it?
Yeah, I think so. Had to scratch my head on this one a little bit, but I think this is how I wanted to go with it. So relationship, it is obviously emotional attachment is forbidden, taboo. So I went with the symbol of the ritual of the heart grown, which is when people do cross that line of taboo, that they gift a heart that they have grown to the person of the object of their affection. And if that person then consumes the heart, they know that the taboo is both people are down to like make this like whatever, like do that, to like go break this taboo. So that's I think what the symbol is. It's a sort of a symbol that I think most people would be turned off by or against, right? But if you grow this heart.
What is found if you have one of these, or like?
Yeah, so I like this idea that the consuming of it, right? Because you'd have to hide this type of stuff, right? Like this is like super. So first I was like, okay, you have to like. My first thought was, okay, they have to grow muscles, and then they both like eat this muscle or layer this muscle onto their body somehow, or they change themselves in some way. So I think the way that it could be detected is. Maybe there is some sort of change in the body. There is a second heart, or sort of that your body grows or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's like, it's a taboo,
Mm-hmm.
and they're doing this thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing. Is like growing the heart. I think is a hard thing to do. Anyways, you have to be super secret about
Right.
it.
Is it something where, because you go through this whole thing, and you still have this like lust? So is it like, is this a ritual to purge yourself of these feelings?
No, this is like to cement them with someone. But if
yeah, so what's the lasting like?
well, I think
symbol?
okay, I see what
You
you're
know
saying.
what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, what makes it? What gives it a level of like permanence?
Sure. I guess I'll just go with sort of my initial thought is that it changes your body somehow.
And is this like something that is recognizable easily?
No, I don't think so. I think that's the whole point, right? Is that it?
So how does it manifest?
Yeah.
What if the other person doesn't eat the heart? What happens?
I
to
know,
you?
right? That's the right because
Because
that's
why
the big
would you
gamble.
risk
It's a huge risk,
going
right?
against tradition?
It's a huge risk. Yeah, I don't know. That's sort of where I was trying to push up against it and see sort of what's going on there. I don't know. Do you guys think I should walk it back?
Well,
And
what
and
if you
redo this?
die, like, or something like that? Like, what if
Yeah,
it's your
what-
actual heart, and then by consuming it, something happens that allows you to like
What?
live? Because otherwise, why would
That's
you even
so
do
cool.
it?
I love that idea. So that's really cool. So
'Cause why would you spend all
take
this-
out your own heart to give it to someone? Is that what you're suggesting? Like
Something like
that's cool.
Because why would you be so subversive? Why would you go against tradition in order to?
And if it doesn't go through, you die. Yeah, I
Right.
kind of like that then because it's like an act of protest almost, where it's like,
right. Is it? That's the
but-
question. Is it protest or purge?
right? Yeah,
Like, are you?
Yeah.
You grow a second heart that is your new heart without the feelings,
Right.
and give this other heart over. And if the person eats it, then they commiserate that they had feelings too.
yeah. Oh, I like that. That's kind
Yeah,
of cool. The
that's cool.
purging thing. I see that. I see your angle on that now.
Right.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
That, and it may or may not have like, I don't know if it's public or private or whatever, but I don't know. What do you feel about?
I wanted there to be this element of risk, which I think that you're sort of
Mhm.
zeroing in on.
So what would be the benefit?
That's kind of cool though, because then if it's a purging thing, then it's more public, I think. And I think that that's the tough part with what I'm doing here is it's a very private and like secret thing, basically. So it's tough to I don't know. It's sort of like this. It's my tradition is like a tradition that people don't do. Like, I don't know. So yeah.
Right.
So I guess let's make it more action oriented. So the ritual of the heart grown is you purge yourself.
The corruption could bring it to where
exactly.
I think
where
you
we
were
exactly,
landing.
and maybe we'll figure that out as the story goes. But this is a great place to start with it. That this is the way in which relationships are kept only sexual and not going to that next level or whatever level we're talking about here.
So if you have emotional feelings,
You literally rip out your own heart
Mhm.
and then regrow another one and
Right.
give the one that you took out to the object of your affection or previous object of your affection.
and then do they destroy it by eating it?
I think
Is
that I think they just they destroy it in any way they want.
Mm-hmm.
I think that
Right.
that's maybe the better way to put it is that they destroy it.
Yeah.
And however that happens is
Right.
is up to them.
Cool.
Okay, cool. We got it.
Mine is the communication tradition of making out occupy space, the space of traditional greetings. So I have there are these things called candies, is what they call them, but they're these metallic lozenges that are etched with the bearer's name,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of keep them in your mouth, and you exchange them in these greetings.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So you like kind of not only are you swapping like sputum or not that's really
Whatever you
gross,
want to
but
talk.
Not only
dude.
you're swapping fluids, but you're also like exchanging this
like
non-reactive
Mhm.
metal
Yeah.
lozenge that everyone's carrying one,
Yeah.
and
How do you know which one's yours in your mouth?
at a certain point you
don't.
right?
Mhm.
Like it's come around so many times that
Mm-hmm.
maybe there's something in naming or something like that, but
Yeah, we'll figure-
at
maybe
a certain
that's-
point,
I like this.
your whatever name was etched on there, the bearer's name is sort of like from their first greeting is passed on and it's gone. It's like away. And I'm gonna say that I'm gonna go a little further and say that this is given on your naming day,
Exactly.
which is also like signifies when you can
when-
start participating in these
exactly.
greetings,
Exactly.
just to keep us
yeah, we're gonna be a,
a certain age threshold.
Exactly. The naming day is well into your teens.
Yeah, well into a legal age of
into
consent.
a legal age of consent.
It's almost like a curio where we don't know yet what happens with these in death or anything.
Yeah, there could
but,
be
but basically that they
or behaviors around them. Maybe you take them out at night and take them back to someone. Like who know? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's so
Right.
many different ways you could.
Maybe you don't have a name before you get this.
get this.
Because you don't have status
Mhm.
Yeah.
in society.
Yeah.
So you
Right.
can't make out
Uh,
with everybody.
What? And maybe that's it. Is that like there's so much here. So okay.
So these candies, these metallic
those are
lozenges
cool.
are my
Very cool.
symbol. All right, D, what do you got?
Oh, my symbol is more of a noun. Was just thinking, because my category is birth and everyone being pregnant all the time, I thought of a cornucopia overflowing like with a live grapevine.
Hmm.
So it's constantly flowering and it is shared by everyone.
And is this like a symbol? Is this like a patch that people wear? Is this sort of like the
Yeah.
symbol for the birthing hospital? Like
Mhm.
what is
I don't
that?
even know if grapes are like a thing that people could eat in this, like if that even exists, but
Mhm.
it's a visual image that is like a physical symbol. Yeah, like a patch or a flag or like it's something that people see constantly.
It like signifies this sort of is it specific to like when someone is like when is it like is it the kind of thing where like you go to this birthing center and it's like, you know, the nurses and the flags and everything
Yeah.
is
mhm.
emblazoned with this symbol, or is it something where it's like you put on this tunic when you're pregnant that has this symbol on it kind of
I
thing?
think it's associated with everyone and everything. So maybe there's a big statue of it in the center of where people gather. Maybe it's like if you're buying or having merchandise around the house, like
Mhm.
it's on all the cups and the plates and
So birth. Okay, so birth and the symbol, the cornucopia. I also sort of thinking about what's in the world. I was sort of like maybe like a jar or a canister for oil, like almost like a how
canopic jar.
Mhm.
canopic jar or something that looks a little bit more Greek, I guess. That idea of I don't know, just sort of a
So-
container,
Do-
Mhm.
is-
overflowing.
yeah,
is
an
there-
overflowing
like if
container.
there's this statue, is there a ritual related to it, like around it, or?
There could be like maybe with touching it or like everyone rubbing things together because it's
Well,
like all of these sort of like
everyone
bulby things.
I mean, basically, is self-producing children, right? That's sort of
Yeah,
the
I mean, it's
idea,
not
right?
not asexually, but
Mhm.
Okay, got it. Okay, so they're having intercourse to
yeah,
produce
we're-
children
Some
together.
kind of
yeah,
interaction.
Okay, so just trying
But
to get it
it's-
clear. So
Mhm.
but both people get sort of pregnant from this interaction, whatever that's. We're going to end up figuring that, whatever that is.
yeah. I don't think it's tied,
Right, because
the-
everyone
To
can
one
have
person.
children, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's
Does it-
tied. Also, like the cornucopia is about the result and being like an
Yeah,
It's
so
like
I'm-
symbolizes being an
Overflowing.
overflowing
Exactly,
vessel.
and
Yeah.
so that's
And the
what I'm trying to
society's
get
And
at.
then
Yeah,
the product of the vessel is then shared amongst everyone.
exactly. Yeah. So
Okay.
that's why I was like oil, right? Because maybe we don't have grapes. So I guess we could do
Mhm.
grapes, you know?
Or it
But
could
it's
be
like-
like,
I mean, it's symbolic too. Like
Yeah.
like we've carried this over from
It's true.
From
before we lived
ancient.
inside it.
yeah, and maybe like they're just spheres that are all attached to one another and shared. So it could maybe represent like,
yeah.
you know, screws or like parts, you know,
Mhm.
Yeah.
talking about like the container. Like
Right.
maybe that's something that we
Or like
recognize.
wombs or gonads or like
Yeah,
Whatever they
all the
that's
what I was
reproductive
thinking,
parts.
like-
Whatever
yeah.
they are.
It's
yeah.
just indicative of like,
Yeah, abundance.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
and also organs.
Yes,
Yeah.
organs.
Cool. So now we're going
Do it
to
again.
do another round of traditions.
I went justice on this one.
How are you feeling, D?
I've got entertainment.
Okay. I'm gonna say death. You want to go first, Ken?
Sure. So I had justice, which is incredibly paranoid society with secret police who try to know everything about everyone. The tradition here is that there is this lust for justice, this lust to root out those in society who would stop us from having the children, stop this wonderful society that we have.
And is that go beyond like the police? Like, is everyone will like rat on everyone else and like everyone's.
I kind of
gossipy?
like
Is
that. I'm
that
kind
towards
of
that?
I'm kind of into that. Yes, yeah, it is like that. It is everyone's informing on everyone else. Yeah, it's weird. It's
It's
1984.
Seeking out gossip and stuff.
Yeah.
So mine is death. A good death is one full of pain and pleasure. So the more
Ooh.
pain and pleasure, like it's sort of like, unlike a militaristic society where it might be like to die on the battlefield is the best death. Like a good death is to be one where it's like that person died in agony and sweet ecstasy. Like the more like the darker the martyrdom to their lust, the better the death.
Mhm.
And that's a goal people like reach to. So again, if you're doing something that might be risky, like but sexy or whatever, and you die, then
Hey,
it's not a shame.
that's
It's
a
not a
good death.
tragedy. It's like,
That's a
oh,
good
what a
death.
way to go.
So I'm thinking of like for
Yeah,
entertainment.
because you're doing entertainment.
Mhm,
Right?
yeah, it's a group activity that is also spectated by other people. I was kind of thinking with John's thing of sort of like some sort of like gladiatorial combat,
Oh,
but there needs to be like a lustful edge to it.
Right. Who fights? The excess children.
because that's sort of where I was thinking too. Is like, I mean, if we're pregnant all the time, we have so many people.
Yeah,
That's
there's a
just the
lot.
only way to like.
Reconstitute the dead.
But here's the thing.
Mhm.
The gladiatorial combat is not with weapons. It's like
Mhm.
sex combat or something like that.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you're having a good death in the gladiatorial combat.
But that doesn't help us with the excess children.
Why not? You'll
Well-
die somehow. You die. Somehow you die. Death
In
is
the
a part of
end,
it.
maybe once you can't reproduce,
Mm.
So,
Mm.
is there a very short window for reproduction then?
that's
Well, so entertainment, right?
I want there to be because
Entertaining.
it has to be entertaining. So I think there has to be some sort of lustful
so there's a couple
element
things
to
like is it public entertainment or
Yes.
is it like private, like how personal, like how people seek entertainment privately or within small groups? Like that's a couple different ways to go at it.
I think it's public. Everyone, the majority of people want to watch this thing.
Mhm.
Like one because it's lustful, like in the actual activity of it seems lustful, and then also people's lust is inspired by this
Mm.
thing.
Is it something that happens regularly, or is it something that's like, a little more rare, like an annual or like semi-regular thing?
I think it should be semi-regular.
Like the Olympics?
Mm-hmm.
So is it like I'll throw
Sex
this out there,
Olympics?
like a coming of age,
A
like
coming of
Hey-o.
like a
Oh.
coming of age, like physically exertive.
But I think people
Trial.
could die.
Right. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. So you get
Mhm.
basically that you have.
Ooh, is this how you get your name? By
That's what I'm
completing this
saying,
trial? Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Like what's that Easter Island thing where you would have to like go out to the far rock and get an
Mhm.
egg and come
Yeah.
back,
Mhm.
and it's a bit of like a tribal race and an individual triumph,
Mhm.
and the subjects who fare the best, everyone who survives gets a name, but whoever fares the best is like an object of lust as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
could be
Oh,
cool.
yeah. That's
Mhm.
cool.
People
But-
have to be able to spectate it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was thinking of they have to like traverse the body and go somewhere like maybe to the surface because no one goes there or something like that.
Yeah, is it like do they? I guess there's two ways to go: deeper
Mhm.
or
Or up.
Out.
Out.
or is it like they have to go deep, get something, and take
I like
it out?
deeper, exactly.
Yeah.
I like that too because there's like
It's more
deeper is like
squishy.
the Underdark. You know what I mean? It's like there's so much crazy shit we don't even know about this thing.
Mhm.
Like
And there's a
you
lot
know,
of oil down there.
There's a lot
What
of
if
oil
they're
down
like
there.
these cyst-like tumors or something, like
Mhm.
growths? So it's like it's a ritualistic thing, but it's also about preserving and maintaining a little bit. But you
Oh,
like
by removing the cysts. Is that what you're
yeah,
saying?
yeah. So like you have to come like again, Vito, come up with your own tweak, but like you send them in to get these things,
Yep.
and they have to come back with them.
And there are like antibodies down there, like white blood cells. You know, like there are
Yeah.
things that are
Mhm.
like
things that have been
Yeah.
like constructed,
Yeah.
and things that are
Yeah.
that are like
Mhm.
natural
Yeah.
in quotes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
In terms of observation, like maybe it's like about the basically being at the finish line and also being at the starting line.
Or
kind
does
of,
the
like,
ink help out somehow in this? Like, there's some special way that the ink.
maybe it's
sort of like
maybe they
for-
use it for they can use it to look, but yeah, it's like was it like a radioactive ink, so they can like MRI kind of or
Or I was thinking it's like photoreceptive. Like I can't think of what the word is where it just like
Mhm.
changes colors in adaptation.
Photoreactive.
Yeah, something like that
Yeah.
maybe. I was almost imagining like almost like a map
hmm
on the chambers.
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, from like the people burrowing
hmm
through like the muscles and whatnot
Yeah.
of the thing.
Okay.
And then at the end, once they're named, that's the first time and then they have an orgy
Perfect.
because
Because why not?
however reproduction happens in this society.
Yeah, we haven't really figured that out.
That
yet.
could
And
also be part of
maybe
the
we don't even need to
spectation.
figure it out. Yeah, it definitely. is
Everyone comes out
Definitely part of the spectrum.
and watches. Okay, so my symbol for justice of everyone being paranoid and toweling on each other is a flapping tongue. So I think this is like the primary food source of our society. They're vat-grown organic tongues as a reward for, turning in people for their feelings toward one another. Like you can get bonus tongues because these are like tightly controlled.
Mm.
And also a wagging tongue is one that speaks freely about the secrets of those around them.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking too that people have like very like adept, like sensitive and like very
Yeah, 'cause they-
pensile tongues.
Yeah.
And they can like read tactilely with them. So like they can read the names of the lozenges and like communicate
Mm-hmm.
via language in their tongues when they're like greeting one another. Like
Mm-hmm.
so there's these sort of like other means of
I
like
like that.
nonverbal
Mhm.
communication.
I like that.
So, yes, a flapping tongue means telling and knowing and communicating with the secret police.
I have in entertainment the journey of naming. A symbol attached to that is the victors, and particularly the main victor, the like first to return with the greatest tumor or whatever it is. They're bestowed the name Master of Flesh, and the current Master of Flesh bestows that like candy, that lozenge, onto them.
Wow.
and the station as well passes.
Mm.
So it's sort of this vaunted
Can we call it Flesh Master? Is that better?
Master of Flesh.
Master of Flesh.
You like that?
Yeah.
Master of Flesh.
Everyone else kind of like people lust after these participants and have their favorites, and it's kind of who gets there first.
Yep.
It passes a name into into them.
Okay, mine is death, which was a good death, right? Is one full of pain and pleasure. So mine was people, when attempting to have a good death, cover themselves in the oil macabre, which is taken from the tumor oil, the stuff that's brought back during the naming ceremony. This is the primo shit that you cover yourself in when you're trying to have a good death.
Does it have any properties?
That's a great question.
Does it burn?
It does. It burns.
Burns so good.
Cause synesthesia or
Yeah. It. I think it's psychotropic. So
So
people
can
start
you use it like
tripping out.
recreationally too?
I mean, not everyone.
But it's
dies of it.
rare.
Yeah,
It is
You
rare,
lust
exactly.
After it. You want to
Exactly.
get your
Everyone
hands
Because you
lusts
just
after
get
it.
it from that.
Exactly.
So now we're going to name the haven. What is this place called? I kind of feel like maybe it's named after the beast, or maybe it's named after the layer that we live in.
I feel like it should be like the Glorge or like something. like,
Glorge.
like something like blah, blah,
Yeah.
sound like
We're
that.
the scump.
Yeah, the scum.
But like something big because
Yeah.
it's big, right?
Yeah, it
like,
is.
And
It
but
is.
it's like
Yeah.
wet and dark too.
We'll say the Glorge.
The
The
Glorge.
Glorge.
I like
That's that works.
That's
That's
good.
fine. Okay. So now we're going to go through and answer some questions about our
Yes.
characters. So question number 1. This is our hero. What do we do? What tradition is our occupation connected to? So this is our occupation, like
They're in the secret police.
in the secret police. And so they're connected to the justice.
Yeah.
What do they do in the secret police? Are they like an officer, or
They're
like a tongue
like a
distributor?
field agent.
Field
so I
agent?
feel like they have to
A
go.
field agent.
Exactly. That's what I was going for. Is
Yeah.
that, yeah, they're like an interrogator, but you
Yeah.
have sex with people to interrogate them.
Or they touch them with their tongues,
Yeah.
like John was saying.
Yeah.
So we'll say field agent.
Yeah,
Tell if
field
they're
agent.
lying or not.
Exactly.
We're kind of getting into like modifications a little bit.
little
Are they
bit.
like accentuated at all? Like, yeah, like are they
So if
given?
they're the secret police, right, they have
Mm.
access to shit.
Like
right?
they have bigger tongues than everyone else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or they're given like,
double tongues.
or
like-
they're like sensory. They're given like sensory
Drugs.
organs that let them
Yeah.
like sniff out fear or something, or like taste things.
Oh, that's cool. Like a snake type of deal.
yeah, like they can
Like
kind
sort
of
like a
taste the air, taste
but
on
taste,
people.
taste feelings, and so I like
Right.
that the heightened senses somehow is that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, so maybe they do flick their tongues like snakes, and they're the only
Yeah.
ones who do that, so that
Yeah,
they can
I agree.
smell.
And maybe they're recruited for that too. Maybe there's like only specific
Yeah,
people
maybe that's
do
how
have
he
very
ended up
sensitive
there.
tongues.
hmm
And so you have to have this innate sensitive tongue thing going on.
Like maybe he wouldn't have joined the secret police,
Exactly.
but everybody
Yeah.
with this special ability
Has
has
to,
to.
Right.
basically.
Or they're like, when they get the ability during the naming by coming in contact with these like tumors and the things down below. So it creates like these spontaneous
Yeah, 'cause
mutations.
who knows? It's not like a
Yeah.
family thing because it's
Right.
spontaneous.
It's just kind of like different. So people have different weird abilities
Yeah.
based on stuff. So rebellion, what tradition does the hero oppose, and why do they oppose it? It can be different from their occupation. Like they could also oppose justice if they wanted to, but which tradition do they oppose?
Relationships.
Yeah,
right?
relationships, I think.
So, but specifically the relationship tradition of not having
Not
monogamy.
being,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Or even just not having emotional
Yeah,
attachment.
that emotional attachment is taboo. That is the tradition that they are against. They don't think that should be the case. They think
Why though? Like, are they? Is it born out of their like because they sense things so strongly that?
yes, maybe that's part of it. But I think for them it's like the emotional attachment makes the physical relationship better. Like it's like it is a thing that enhances what everyone's about, and so they're trying to change whatever society or go against this idea because maybe they have had that experience in the past, or maybe somehow they gained this knowledge. Maybe the Glorge told them.
Yeah, let's see. Why do they oppose it? I wonder. Like that's why, like I wonder. Do they have like a stronger empathy or like ability to connect with people, and because like it's sort of tied to how they read people, but they like they just have this strong sense of empathy, which they still lust after people, but they lust for this connection because of their empathy.
Yeah.
So they're not like as much as a sociopath or inward turned or whatever you want to say. Like
Sure.
they have this.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out why love was so bad because I don't like this idea that love somehow makes you want to be monogamous. Like I don't like that idea.
No,
Right.
But
yeah,
I
no.
haven't figured out why love and emotional attachment would be bad. But it has something to do with like the way that you need to just like be having relationships with lots of people and having sex and like there's something about the love and emotional attachment that is taboo in this society.
Yeah, I think I feel like
monogamy is taboo.
well, no,
right?
it's like emotional attachment at all
Yeah.
is taboo.
At all. Yeah. So even
Right.
if you like the idea of like loving multiple people would still be
taboo.
like it's just about lust and about
Right.
like physical and it's
Right.
about reproduction and having as many
That's why I almost feel like it's all internal. Like it's about like if you have external, if you like have external feelings and are like you
Externalize them with our ritual, right? Like the relationship ritual, right? Is the heart thing,
right, it's a purge.
It's like you
like maybe
purge.
any emotions are bad.
Well, you
Besides
still want
even
lust, right?
Like lust is the only emotion that is allowed. Because like what about like sadness or like
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd want infatuation,
Mhm.
right? Like you'd want to like,
because like jealousy is bad too.
Right.
So like all of these
but I mean, part of it is like if you can foster those emotions in people, like you can. The idea being that like you could want to make people jealous as sort of a thing, and then you get to eat their hearts because they feel jealous. Like, so it's all about your like wanting things for yourself. You want people to break the taboo and be into you. Like that's how you do it right in the society. So like you can have a bunch of relationships. Like you want someone to only be into you,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you don't have to like. That's doing it right. Like them giving you their heart is the.
And that goes into the master of flesh sort of hierarchy as well. Yeah.
So with our hero here, their empathy.
Did they just not perform this ritual? Like they have feelings for someone and they just held on to them like an experiment, being like, oh yeah, I'm just going to see what happens if I do this. I don't want to give the person the satisfaction, or I don't want to do that.
I think it's like empathy leads to reciprocation because they feel like they can empathize where someone is. Like, so instead of saying, I'm going to cause you pain because that gives me pleasure and fostering that because it gives you more pleasure, you say, if I cause you pain, then I will feel your pain because I have empathy. So I'm going to I'm going to reciprocate your feelings for me and not do what I can to not cause you more pain or whatever. You know what I mean? Like
Cause you the pain you want to have caused. But yeah.
well, they don't want it. Well, the subject of the subject who feels for you, like, so let's say you're a normal person in our society and you have a bunch of suitors and you have them on hooks and you're stringing them along. You give them little tastes here and there to deprive yourself of some pleasure because that increases your own lust or whatever. And you know that like you're driving this person mad with like lust for you and they're developing feelings. And so they like have to give you their heart and you like brag about this bullshit. You tell the secret police all about it and like you have them just dangling on a string. Our hero wouldn't do that. Like they're not in that part of, they're going to be like, oh, this person is so into me that they're in pain over this thing. They know it's taboo. They know they have to go through this painful ritual and I'm not going to do that to them. I'm not going to string them along. I'm not going to like, I'll do what's correct. Like I'll either reciprocate and give to them what they want, or I will like set them free from the game.
Right.
Cool.
Like I want to share pleasure equally with that person
Yeah.
and like
Right.
empathize with them. Whereas our society says like, no, it's about lust. It's
all
about
about the
like causing
quote-unquote
pain
game.
and getting your
Yeah.
own pain and pleasure and
Yeah.
like having a combative sort of emotional relationship with other people.
Right. And the
Whereas,
society then is like, okay, if it gets too far, if you're getting jealous and you're starting to fall in love with someone, you need to purge yourself of that and publicly basically reveal that to everyone so that it goes away.
So then identity, what does our hero look like? I guess this kind of comes to like, what do these
People look
look like?
Yeah.
Are they androgynous? Are they have both sexes? Are they a third sex that we just don't even? I mean, do we not
Well,
even know what?
I think we
mean,
should like kind of veil a little bit on this part.
Yeah.
Like we kind of say
Use your
like
imagination.
I agree.
Like,
I would like
you know,
that, yeah.
it can skew either way. I think we they them
Everyone.
like kind of
Yeah.
everybody.
yeah,
Mhm.
I agree.
Yeah, because I didn't necessarily want them to be anthropomorphic.
Yeah.
You know, their reproductive organs I don't think are anything like human
Yeah,
Right.
organs.
then
or,
I think that
like-
we should just be very clear about that, right? That like, oh, this society, they don't have their reproductive organs are not. We're not very.
Well, I mean, it goes to being like effectively, we have like a gender construct is not
No,
there.
it's
like
not.
everybody is
No.
just whatever.
they- it's
So
them. Yeah,
everyone is they and
they're
them.
them.
And so,
So the tongues can come in here I mean, how people.
I mean, there's all
I
sorts
mean,
of like we can
there's
call them.
whatever.
Everyone has fun orifices everywhere. It's
Yes.
a lot of good times,
Yes.
like to be had by all.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, that's true.
we,
Do they
yeah.
wear clothes?
I feel like they don't.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
clothes.
I was imagining like
Ooh.
because it's dark.
Yeah.
For some reason, I imagine
It
like
is
you know
dark.
the Pac-Man ghosts,
Mhm.
Yeah.
only like really tall and skinny and like gray,
Mm.
but then they have like there's like sludge opens and there's like a tongue that comes out,
Yeah.
but like otherwise there's not really like discernible features
yeah.
until
Yeah,
like
until-
reproduction happens and then like some like things
Yeah.
come out and like touches other things and like
Yeah, my head has like weird, just kind of lithe, like Peter Chung style, like Aeon Flux type characters, where they're just like
Oh.
they just kind of like slide around. They're just very like elongated
Mm.
everywhere,
Yeah.
and they're still like bipedal. They still have like two arms,
Mhm.
but everything else, like they may have like sharp features and kind of, but they're all angles
mhm.
and just kind of
That's
like
so funny.
slick
The-
and long.
I went the total other way where everyone's Rubenesque. Like everyone has precious flesh all over
around
them. Like just mounds of flesh. Yeah, that's sort of where I was going with it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I was imagining like tall and skinny vertical, and you were imagining like horizontal more,
Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of like crawl, like
Yeah.
like slippy slidey.
yeah, just like crawl and climb and just kind of like spiders in a wet
Sack.
like, yeah, yeah.
Oh. Cool.
But I don't think we need to
No,
worry.
we
like
don't.
so our hero
But I want them
themselves.
to know it's not like a humanoid.
They
yeah,
don't,
like
they don't have arms and legs. That's basically what we're saying. Right?
or like how John said
Okay.
that it's like spidery shapes in
Yeah.
a wet sack. Like
Mm.
something like that.
There's like
so,
some kind of structure, but it's,
Yeah,
and it's
like-
like maybe semi-translucent, but as
Yeah.
light hits it, yeah.
So that way, like everyone's gonna imagine that slightly differently,
Yes.
but you know
Like
right
we
away,
all just
like
did,
yeah, like that's not a human,
hmm
right?
And they're
Perfect.
slick.
Yeah. They're
Mhm.
slick as fuck. Yeah. All right, cool. We
so
got
describe
it.
ourselves. What do they look like? So our hero. Well, so like let's talk about like discerning features
Right.
within
Mhm.
these things.
Right.
Like we've already talked about like their mouths, right?
They have
Yeah.
mouths. They have tongues that, when you're special, they go in and out to smell the air.
Right.
Mhm. So
So he
that's
has like the
happening here.
flicking
Mhm.
tongue.
It's a flicking tongue.
Is there something?
They,
Is there something like unique about the hero? Something that people might lust after or sets them apart?
Maybe you were saying like semi-translucent, so like the flesh is semi-translucent, and so sometimes colors come through.
Mm,
So maybe like the colors of the hero are very attractive
yeah.
to other
Maybe it's like
Cool.
a rare, like a very like. Maybe it's their blood, or who knows? But they like
Mhm.
have this bluish hue
Mhm.
to
Yeah,
them that kind of
that's cool.
shines out.
Hmm.
That where a lot of people kind of tend towards like the orange and red kind of zone a little
Right.
bit.
Okay, cool.
So the light that comes
like
through them.
turquoise.
Yeah.
If their flesh is sort of translucent, can it be seen when they're pregnant? Can their
Yeah.
reproducing be seen?
That's how
then,
you.
maybe?
That's how we know, because everybody is like pregnant, right?
So everyone's
like,
naked all the time for the most part. Maybe there's some decorative
naked.
clothing. Right.
They're just color shifting
Yeah.
flesh.
Yeah, exactly.
Over a scaffolding.
Super opaque. I mean, it's
Right.
not super transparent. Like
Right.
it's still,
It's still
like you
slightly
basically
opaque.
it's like
it
when you
changes.
it's when you like shine a flashlight through your
Yeah,
hand
yeah.
and you start to see
Mhm.
some of the bone.
Yeah.
That's kind of maybe a little bit more, so you'd see a little more sinew and stuff, but
I'm
you aren't going to see a lot.
Imagining those squeezy things that have the opalescent fluid inside, and when you squeeze them, the fluid comes out like the sides, and
Yeah.
it gets like more translucent.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm
And
imagining.
sometimes there
they're
are
made
toy
of.
spiders in those or something.
Yeah,
You
and there's
see,
stuff inside that
yeah.
you can see, but only when you squeeze it,
Really,
and then it becomes
yeah.
more translucent.
Maybe like when you are with child or whatever, you do stretch out a little bit, and you see as a second form grows in you, and then you become.
Multiple forms,
Oh yeah, you could have multiple.
like
children
all
at
of
once.
the grape.
the
you know,
grapes.
The
exactly.
grapes, like
And we get back to those. What do we call them?
It's just the cornucopia, right?
Yeah, I know the cornucopia, but I
Mhm.
thought we had like a name for.
Well, the
those things.
spheres.
Yeah, the
right?
spheres.
Well, like that's like a platonic ideal, right?
Mhm.
The like perfect sphere. But
mhm.
cool. So we kind of have their identity. So the last thing we need is their name. What is a name? Like naming for these creatures.
So
Cheer.
They all get a name, right? They all get a name on their naming day. What'd you say?
I said cheer.
Sheer is fine with me. I mean,
Sheer, SHEER.
EER. Yeah, sheer. I like that.
So we'll do the fallen next. Relationship to the hero. Family, friend, guardian, leader, lover. Let me run through some options within
I thought of
these.
coworker first.
Well, like leader falls in that, where it's
Yep.
like somewhat like it's a, another person at the secret police, for
Exactly.
instance.
like their boss.
Yeah. Guardian, it could be, I mean, this is a little tougher, but like, again, maybe it's
Could be
someone like an older partner in the police,
partner,
police, or
exactly.
like an old their mentor at the police
Mhm.
station. Friend could be a coworker in that. Family, I feel like our family structure, maybe it's like the pod of people who survived your run are kind of like
Yeah.
your family,
Mhm.
just because it's basically your
We-
generation.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
don't
like-
really touch upon getting raised in this society.
Yeah,
but
like that
it's a
doesn't
very,
really happen.
Yeah.
But that's why I kind of feel like your family might be that tier that
Yeah.
you all kind of like. That's the
You were
people
the
you're
same
closest
age at the
to,
same time.
exactly. Yeah.
and you've trained together. You've gone through the
You were
trials
born
together.
out of those little. You were the same sphere group
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sphere
that came out
groups.
at the same time.
hmm Lover, I mean, can be everybody in this society.
Yeah.
So probably
Um,
not that one.
But I mean, it's fine. So this is the fallen. This is the person who promotes the flaw in this society.
So I think it's probably like a boss, a mentor in the secret police.
Yeah, I like I like
You guys wanna
leader.
go with leader.
Yeah, I like leader. Is that right? Yeah. Mentor in secret police, do you?
So is this someone who's older, a couple generations or something?
Yeah, like they're kind of the role model for how to be the best secret police.
Yeah, I can they just be the head of the secret police?
Sure.
The
There's a
leader?
master of tongues.
Master of tongues. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So occupation, we kind of have this sorted out already.
Yeah.
But so they're the boss at the secret society, right?
Mhm.
Secret police, yeah.
So their occupation, choose a tradition and give them a position or role the haven that relates to it. So we've kind of
We've
already
already
set
did
up
that.
that they're in justice. again, right?
Justice.
And what do they do? I mean, so far we've kind of said they like oversee the general thing, but like, do they report to anybody? Do they have a goal?
Is this the most powerful position in society? This master of tongues? The goal of the judge. Remember, it's to know everything about everyone,
Mhm.
right?
So
So the master of flesh is the one who gives everyone their names, and the master of tongues the flesh and knows all that there is to know about everyone because
Ah,
they know everyone's
Yeah.
names.
I was kind of like, maybe it's like one is turned outwards and one is turned inwards.
Mhm.
It's like the master of flesh. They're the victor. They're the one who went deepest. They came back
Mhm.
with the most like
mhm.
tumor or whatever.
Mhm.
So they are the most
They're the
aware situationally of how the beast, how the Glorg is doing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So they're the one in charge of maintaining, like ritualistically or whatever, the
Mhm.
Glorge.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so based on what I saw down there, we're going to need to send a bunch of people down to the legs and clear out some aneurysms or
Yeah.
whatever, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
Like that's
Definitely.
the master of flesh.
Like we need to be rubbing the
Mhm.
oil.
right.
spells,
Like they become sort of an
rituals.
engineering
Yep.
sort of like.
and the most sought after, lusted after person as well in the society,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Right, like an object of desire.
Mhm.
But so the master of tongues is more inward. Like it's someone who like is sort of the top of seeking all this information.
Knows more about the people. Like
Right.
the master
Right,
of
they don't-
flesh knows about
The
The
strength,
environment.
the Glorge, yeah.
Environment, yeah. So I guess we were getting down to into the idea of punishment, right? It's like, so the goal is to mete out punishment, right? The goal is to stop people from doing the things they're not supposed to be doing in society.
What if justice is kind of a given. What if they're actually more tied to the relationship? You know what I mean? Like there's like an overlap there where that if people are breaking this taboo, and that's kind of the base information people are getting to. Well, all right, we'll keep it simple with justice, right? Because it touches on all those things. And what do? They're the administrator.
They read all the things that are written. They read the things that the wagging tongues write with ink or whatever. They're the only one who reads everything.
They're the spy master.
Yeah.
So they're the know-it-all.
Yes.
And they distribute information and distribute the tongues.
And then distribute punishment as well, which I'm trying to wrap my head around.
Well, they send...
do they send them? Do they give them over?
Their tongues out into the world,
Yeah.
and then to gather the information, and then they come back and tongue each other, so that way the master of tongues knows everything.
Yes.
So identity. What does this guy look like? This thing.
Well, they
This
are.
person.
They have a orangish light that comes through them. They also have a flicking tongue.
I think they're darker colored, like
Ooh.
darker, more grayish orange.
Okay.
Like maybe when you're older, you're more.
What if they're more like opaque?
Yeah.
Too?
Yeah, not so like.
So it's harder to see if they're pregnant or not. We haven't really talked about natural death. We've only talked about.
I mean, there is no
the
natural
good
death. Once no one can tell if you're pregnant or not, then you cover yourself in the oil macabre,
Oh yeah.
which is psychotropic, and then have
Try it.
ritual combat.
Yeah, exactly. Which goes into entertainment again. So death could even be part of entertainment as well.
So darker, more opaque.
Orangey color, bigger, like more squishy mass.
What if it's like basically you don't really discern people from like reflecting light from them. You discern them from the light that passes through them.
Mm-hmm.
So like he's dark mostly because this dark orange shape
Mm-hmm.
because there's less light coming through them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they have like, as opposed to flicking tongues, like multiple mouths.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I like
Right?
that's what I was thinking. I almost thought two tongues originally, but yeah, multiple mouths works too.
Multiple mouths to receive all of the tonguings from
Yeah.
the tonguelings.
And to tongue multiple people at the same time.
Because that's how you get information.
Exactly.
Multiple mouths. So we kind of have a title for them, Master of Tongues. And I feel like that's, you gain that title
their
in a
name.
different way.
Yeah.
Well, but do they have like a name before that? I don't know. Yeah, maybe you guys are right, Master of Tongues from the... Okay, so now the last bit, we are doing the pillar. So relationship to the hero. Family, friend, guardian, leader, lover. Family, again, it could be someone that came up from the pod with them. Friend, it could be just someone else in the society, just somehow related to them. Or it could be like a coworker. Guardian, again, we get into like the mentor thing.
I think it's a friend who is like the lowly underdog of the group. You know, like they
another
were
secret police kind of thing.
not even in the secret. They weren't
Yeah.
cool. They didn't get the mutation from the ritual. Like they passed the ritual, so they got their name and whatever. But not everybody.
So they're more like a grunt. Like they
They're like they came from the same.
Oh, so they're family then.
Yeah.
They're family.
family, in that they came from that same
The same
group of
peer tier.
They're from the plutonic orbs, the plutonic
yeah. Mm-hmm.
cornucopia.
The same orbs, the same group of orbs, the same trial. They made it barely.
Yeah. Occupation. What does this person do?
Okay, so
And what tradition is their occupation connected to?
One of the people that helps fabricate the oil macabre from the cysts
Like
that
a
are collected.
distiller? What if we'll connect them to death? I think that's a good call. Like it's not
It's not glamorous,
right.
Because
you
dying.
process you process oil, like you're
Mhm.
kind of working an assembly line a little bit.
Getting older and having to participate in this ritual means that you're not able to reproduce anymore, which is
Right.
what our entire foundation is founded on. So in the end, you get to go down with pain and pleasure, but in the end, like you're being taken out of society. So even being like associated with this sort of part of society isn't like that great, you know?
'cause
Like
it's-
nobody wants to think about how you can't reproduce anymore.
Exactly. What happens with the corpses?
I think like there's just like we just kind of have a vat
Okay.
where we
Mhm.
where we
Yeah,
dump.
probably.
Like similar to how like anyone who
Well-
dies is just reconstituted into, or we just like push them down into the layers and
Yeah,
the
no, I
system
mean you
They
takes
get
basically put them
absorbed.
back into the Glorge's like gullet, effectively,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean,
So identity, what does this creature, this person look like? What describe them?
they have a short tongue. What color?
Yellowish.
jaundice.
Like a pale yellow, though, not bright.
And they're not like sickly. They're just kind of
No, like
No.
that's just like not the most desirable color. It's
Right.
not like super vibrant. It's
Mhm.
just like, lots of people are shades of like orange and red and yellow, but he just happens to be sort of like pastel yellow.
What is their name?
Bloom.
Well, Bloom's good.
I'll go with Bloom,
Yeah,
right?
Bloom's good.
It's a pleasant name.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we have a new society that we've built. We have the Glorge. It is a world with lust as the flaw at its heart. It's a world. The elements that compose it are ink, muscle, and oil. And the Glorge actually describes it is the name for the society's vessel. It's the thing that it is tied to and lives within. They live in the layer between its muscle / structure and skin. They're inside this giant, multi-appendaged thing that just traipses the world.
The world, yeah.
And
Moves through different environments.
moves through different environments, and the external features shift based on the environments, and the external circumstances are written in like photoreactive ink on the very walls or ceilings or whatever you
Yep.
call it, the sky.
The sky of our
that is
world.
the skin of the Glorge.
Yeah. We see only what we can't see through the Glorge's skin, but we can see what's outside because
Right.
the Glorge puts it on its inside
Yeah.
of its skin for us.
So the ink is the inky skin is our sky, and our earth, the soil, is this muscle that is latticed with metallic structure that we kind of move around within, and it all is just coated in and dripping and pooling with oil. So that is our society, our haven. We have 6 traditions within our haven. We have birth. Everyone carries reproductive organs, and it is constant and common. It is constant and common to be pregnant or to be carrying, offspring. And it's kind of odd to not be pregnant. So it's sort of outside of the thing. And the symbol for this is this cornucopia with these perfect spheres sort of pouring out of it that sort of symbolize the spheroid shapes that contain the little vessels of Christianity, of humanity, whatever they are, that are
Of life.
of the next generations. So yeah, that's our first tradition. Our second tradition is communication. So making out occupies the space of most traditional greetings, and there are these candies, these metallic lozenges that are exchanged with these greetings that just kind of pass from person to person, and the bearer's name is engraved on it. So these things just kind of pass along. So justice, it's an incredibly paranoid society with secret police who try to know everything about everyone, and there are citizen informants that run rampant. The flapping tongue is a symbol of this society, of this secret police group. It's actually sort of tied to this reward system, this sweet meat of this rare sort of tongue meat that people are given as a reward for their service
For
to the
wagging
secret
their
police.
tongues.
Mhm. So entertainment, we have a naming ceremony that culminates with those who survive from that, those who've come to age, who survive this trial of burrowing into the flesh and returning with tumorous growths or whatever they're sent with. Those who return are named in a naming ceremony, and then there's a big old orgy. And part of the sort of culmination of that orgy, or the beginning of it, is that the victor, the one who came back with the most accolades, is bestowed with the name and station from the previous Master of Flesh of Master of Flesh. They're given that candy token, and everyone else just kind of gets whatever names our people lustfully give them.
Yep.
Relationship-wise, love and any emotional attachment is a taboo. So if you form connective feelings for someone, then that is bad news. You shouldn't be doing that. And there's a ritual of growing a heart to purge these affections, and you give this extra heart that symbolizes your affections over to the object of your affection. And lastly, death. Good death is full of pain and pleasure. And sort of to bring about this death, the ritual is to cover yourself in the oil macabre that's taken from the tumors. It's processed from these tumors that are pulled up from inside the flesh of the Glorge. And it has these psychotropic properties that enhance your sensation and give you pleasures beyond imagine and pain beyond imagine.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Those are our traditions. And so within our world, within our haven, we have our hero by the name of Sheer. They are one of the secret police. They have come back from their trial with a flicking tongue, which they're called a field agent. They're sent out in the field to, using their heightened senses that their flicking tongue gives them, to root out information and like truths from people's emotions with the flicking of tongue. They rebel against the relationship tradition, the idea of not having emotional attachment, because they have a level of empathy, and so they want to reciprocate feelings instead of discouraging feelings or unhealthily encouraging them for their own pleasure. And so they're more about sharing and cycles of reciprocation and that's why they rebel against relationships. All of the people within the society are they and them. They are these sort of amorphous, gorgeous sacks of flesh with fluid and maybe some like opaque bony structure within that's indiscernible and shifting, and you really know them by the light that comes through and the texture of their tongues. Our hero Sheer has this flicking tongue and this sort of rare bluish glow that comes through them when the light passes them.
Yeah, they're pretty transparent as
Yeah.
well.
Our fallen is the master of tongues. They are actually the leader. They're the boss of Sheer, the hero. The master of tongues is the boss of the secret police. They're the ones who gather, collect, and keep the secrets and mete out punishments or accolades, or treats accordingly. They are occupied with the justice. They sort of administrate and spy master, holding on to and probably for their own gain as much as anybody else's, distributing this information and punishment, and also sending people out into the field to gather more information. So lastly, this master of tongues is this big orange, kind of dark, more opaque mass with multiple mouths and just extremely like sensitive, hence like multihensile tongues within their mouths. And lastly, we have our pillar, Bloom. They are of the family of our hero Sheer. Bloom was of the same trial, so they're of the same peer generation, and that's how they've kind of come up together as they aged into their naming, surviving their naming, and now they know each other as peers of their trial. Bloom is occupied in the process of making the oil macabre. It's sort of like a assembly line job or whatever. It's something that's essential to the society, but is not super glamorous, but it's good work if you can get it. And lastly, Bloom, it's kind of pale yellowish, attractive enough sphere of flesh. And they've got a short tongue, but they know how to use it. So that is our haven. That is our setup. So we're going to get right into it. So the first thing we do is we corrupt one of the
Traditions.
and it's the pillar that describes a tradition being corrupted.
Hey, that's me. I think that we're going to corrupt communication. I think that's a real easy way to go right off the bat. which means that the way that people are greeting each other, the making out, the lozenges, the metallic lozenges that have people's names etched on them. I think people are starting to become collectors, where they're trying to collect the lozenges and like keep them, hoard them. Specifically, people are, it's almost like a Pokemon thing where people are trying to get the Master of Flesh lozenge if they can. Like, I was going to say underground, but not really. It's just this whole societal switch to collecting lozenges.
I think this might go to the Master of Flesh because it passes from one to the next on the next trial.
That's right.
They like always keep it. So it's like it makes them an extra source of lust.
That's right.
Is that they never pass they never use their mouth to greet anyone.
Yeah, the Master of Flesh doesn't make out with people to keep their status.
I'm going to say that the hero is with Bloom down at the oil vats, right? Where, based on a tip, there have been some questions about the oil and like people getting access to it potentially who should have not had it or something, but basically that it's not very clear, but he was sent down here to root out some rumor. Nothing substantial so far.
Like maybe
But-
some of the oil is missing.
Yeah, some oil may be missing. There's just some general like questions around the oil right now. Bloom and Sheer are down there at the vats. Sheer is going through the logs and kind of looking through and trying to see if there's anything amiss.
Well, once I noticed they were gone, I thought I should probably tell you right away. So, good to see you, by the way.
Yeah, and Sheer flicks their tongue down Bloom's throat in greeting, and
Exactly.
they exchange lozenges. Oh, you've been up to the gray cells, I see.
Oh, yes.
This is a beautiful name that you've found.
They were amazing. The gray cells, I can't say enough good things about them. It's almost like, I don't know, just a great way to spend a vacation. It was nice to come back. But once I came back, I found this now amiss.
Yeah, it's so troublesome. I've spent hours questioning your coworkers, and, well, I've been getting some mixed messages, Bloom. I'll tell you right now.
I'm surprised by that. I would think that they all would be very interested to be questioned by you. What an honor.
Well, listen. How is this oil accounted for?
Well, you've got the logs there.
Yes, and I mean it's clear that there's a finite amount. It's as much as the tumor allows, and you have to have a certain dispensation from the Master Flesh to even access the oil macabre.
Exactly. So I don't know. I mean, you're the expert here. I guess, right? Like someone would steal the oil macabre because they wanted to use it, but they weren't given dispensation by the Master of Flesh. That's what I would think. But I'm no field agent.
Yeah. Well, how about this? I mean, there's already some missing. Why don't I just borrow a little bit more?
I mean, what? Why?
Well, not that I might sample it myself, but if I examine it, I may be able to recognize the effects of it on someone else and better source out the problem. I'll return it in good order, hopefully with the remainder of the other oil.
I can't give this to you. You can only give it to
Bloom,
you if it's been
Bloom.
dispensed by the Master of Flesh.
Listen, my
You know
friend.
that.
Hey, I need you to just turn the other way for just a moment.
Oh, this is my job, Sheer. I don't want to get fired.
You won't.
I'm getting this job anyways.
Let me tell you that I've got some information on.
Oh, information? What type of information?
Oh no. I'm afraid I can't share, Bloom. It's
Oh,
on
yeah.
a couple of your overseers here, but they're into some interesting stuff.
You have to tell me, then
They're interested in some very very individual people. So, but that's
Oh,
as much as I'm going to give you.
really?
I Bloom, I can tell that you're. Listen, how about this? I'll give you a little taste of my information. If you give me just a touch of that oil.
I think that we go back a long time, Sheer.
How about this?
the
You don't
trial
even
was
give it to
tough.
me. You turn
No,
the other
no.
way,
I-
and I'll take a bit, and I'll give you a little something.
And Bloom is doing just that. It's sort of turning away their lust for information, their lust for knowledge, for gossip, sort of overtaking
Yeah.
their duties to their job.
Yeah, and Sheer using a vest, like a little like vestial, like a something that can contain this thing. It's still kind of amorphic and folded into one of their fleshy pockets, one of their more inert orifices, and fills it just a touch of the oil, like just enough to have something, but not enough to show that there's some missing from the latest pool.
Or there is a
consequence.
consequence.
Oh, yeah.
Sheer is able to successfully abscond with this vial of oil macabre, but there's a consequence, and that is the vial containing the liquid has a malfunction, and too much of the oil seeps out into the flesh of Sheer and begins to affect them with the psychotropic effects, which leads to loosening their tongue.
Okay. So sort of giving, as the scene goes on, he's not quite feeling the effects yet, but he gives Bloom a little like taste of some information. That,
Yes. About supervisors.
Graith,
Mm.
your vat master, they, let's just say they were near the heart growing plantation not too long ago, looking for some core cells to grow heart. But you didn't hear this from me, old friend.
Aha!
Ha ha.
Always a pleasure to see you.
Good day, Bloom. Ooh. And kind of starts to totter off. All right. So now that's my scene.
Yep.
So now the Fallen, you're going to frame a scene about the hero. Where is the hero? Who's with the hero? What is the situation?
The hero is reporting to the Master of Tongues. At this point, has had some time with the oil and is reporting to him his observations of the goings on that he's witnessed.
So you're in the
Master of Flesh's headquarters of the secret police.
All right.
Is in an especially dark area of the muscles of
The glory.
the Glorge, with big puddles of oil that ooze out from the ground and little sounds as it falls from the ceilings.
Yeah. So Sheer sort of floats through this oil that fills the chamber like a pool and floats towards the Master of Tongue and begins flicking their tongue into his mouth and into their mouth, and passes the lozenge of Bloom and takes one of the lozenges of the Master of Tongue and says, I don't quite know what I don't know I've just started on the old oil case there, but we're getting some interesting information.
Yes, Sheer, you are my best field agent. I am confident that your tongue will taste all the secrets of the goings-on. And in fact, there is a strange taste that I feel on you.
Yes. Oh, that's, I think that's the pleasure of my friend Bloom's deceit. And that the sensation of tonguing that into the master's mouth, Sheer can't control themselves. In fact, their tongue burns, and they're trying to pull back from this, but the Master of Tongue, it's almost like they're enveloping them. It feels like that. to
Yes.
shear, and they want to like the contact of their skin on skin is like hooks, but at the same time they just want to lean into it, and so they just continue to tongue the details. Like I stole a vial of the oil, and Bloom let me get away with it, and I wanted to just try to find something out, but and I gave some secrets away. It's the beginning. It's a very productive beginning to.
As the Master of Tongues has a variety of tongues, unlike the majority of the subjects of this kingdom, they are able to suck the tongue of Sheer as the other mouths speak, and they say, "This is all very informative. I am very proud of you, Sheer. This is excellent performance. Yes, but tell me more about this strange taste I find in you."
It must be the oil. It must be. I've never felt anything like this. It must be leaking.
At this, the Master of Tongues draws back suddenly and forcefully, and the connection like ripping between the two of them. It's almost like if they were beings that breathed oxygen. It's as if like the oxygen of the room has been like
And for Sheer, this is
evaporated.
like being exploded in a couple different levels. Like it's like light and sound and just concussive shock at this disconnection, but also just quivering pleasure of light and like just convulsing and splashing in this pool of oil uncontrollably.
And the Fallen says, the Master of Tongues, "What? You have tasted of the oil macabre. This is the most sacred of fluids. It is reserved only for death and for the gladiatorial combat that marks the deaths of our people."
Yeah, and Sheer, the oil, like this last massive sensation, can feel sort of the fatigue as the oil's effects start to wear off. And in this sort of quiescence, this like post-orgasmic bliss, as the pain recedes and this sort of like tension of the pleasure is all that's kind of left, Sheer goes, I think that everyone should be able to experience this, Master. This is fantastic. This is fantastic. In small doses with control. In fact, a petite mort, not the finality of true death, but this is fantastic.
The mass of the Master of Tongues seems to coalesce. It like forms this tall vertical cylinder and begins to sort of vibrate, and the tongues extending from it become straight and stand out from it, and it seems to be sort of in this irrational rage. It says, "This is blasphemy. You must take penance for this."
Sheer, sort of still riding this high, just sort of laughs and splashes out and says, "Well, Master, I've got work to do. No time for games." And start it leaves.
Yeah, I think that the Master of Tongues is so just shocked by this. They, allow Sheer to leave, but there is a consequence in that as Sheer comes off of this high of the drug, he becomes despondent and completely loses any lustful feeling.
Oh no! Now we're going to reflect before we rotate. Sheer at this point feels that it's still early on. Like the society is too rigid in points, and that they've experienced this like level of pleasure and this sensation that is chemical and starts to almost become like in this sort of downtime where they're almost in like a, not with, maybe like a level of withdrawal, but like withdrawal from like the rush of lustful chemicals in their body. That's how they start to think about it, that they're beings in a machine a little bit, that maybe they're not working with like rationality, and the rigidity of the society is keeping people from experiencing joy or anything more than short bursts of pleasure that are kind of can just come and go. And so Sheer is at this point where they're not feeling the whole, like their whole society is now starting to shift in focus. Like what they're starting to question a whole range of things within the society beyond just the like empathy reciprocation thing. That's part of that, but also like, so we seek out these things. This is the ultimate death. Everyone could have this. I mean, but then having had it, it kind of lays bare that our society might be empty or devoid of something. And that's where Sheer is at right now. They haven't fully coalesced these feelings or thoughts in their mind, but they're just
Wrestling
they've been
doubts.
opened up into some like vein of thought that they hadn't affected them before. Yeah, so that's that. So now we're going to rotate characters. We pass them to the right. We're now into our second set of scenes. You're going to corrupt one of the traditions. You can further corrupt an existing tradition. It's already corrupt. So like right now, communication, people are hoarding the metallic things. You can corrupt something else.
I think it makes sense that death is going to be further corrupted because of the oil. So I think that word is spreading about the oil being used for recreational purposes. And so more and more of it is going missing, and more people are starting to use it, and it's having effects on the society.
So, in this scene, Sheer with a Master of Tongues, and they are like on a stakeout. Like they have are finding like a group of people who have been hoarding this stuff and like selling it, I guess, or distributing it freely, just using it,
licking it up.
Yeah, licking it up. So we've staked out like a place where they've been hiding this stuff. It's up in the gray cells in a different sort of section of the Glorge. We've traveled.
Yeah, ready? I can get a little prompt on this for you.
Go for it.
So, Sheer. On a raid, I don't usually like to bring a field agent. We keep to sticklers on these. But, I need your tongue, loose as it is.
Well,
you know this
my tongue's
oil.
at your service. Don't worry about that. And I do know the oil well. I know exactly what they're going to be going through. And if we're lucky, I might be able to feel a lot out of them. Find out where their source is, who they're working with. Maybe find out more.
It's your sack on the line.
Well, how do you propose we approach this? Do you simply want to bust in? Should I pose as someone who is here to score?
I think that you go in. Me and the sticklers will hang back until you give the signal. Then we'll send in the sticklers, but you're the one who's going to be on the front lines on this. Should it go sideways?
Well, that's the job I'm supposed to be doing.
In the background, you kind of hear like
Yeah.
giggling, sort of like squelching
Oh,
sounds.
yeah. Sheer, if they had some sort of hat, would tip it at the Master of Tongues.
Maybe there's a salute that they do with
Yeah,
tongues.
some sort of tongue salute, some sort of flicking of tongues.
I think you roll your lozenge in view.
Yeah, there it is.
Mm.
Yeah,
little flirty like.
you flirt, do some lozenge flirting.
Mm-hmm.
Things are mostly open secrets. I mean, it has to be super duper secret for no one to know about it. And if it's something that has to do with lust and pleasure, people want to be talking about it. So this place where we are, this macabre den, if you will, if that's what we want to call it, these petite mortars, if we want to call them that, yeah, just like walk in and start like making out with people. And one of the sort of petite mortars who is there has this sort of red coloring that's coming out of them. They're shorter, but their tongue is quite long, but it's not a flicking tongue. Sheer just like greets them as one does in the society, as their tongue sort of slithers out, and they're saying, greetings. I've heard that this is the place to see past the Glorge's skin.
The person giggles and is like, "Oh, Sheer, it's you. You're here. It's so nice to see you. Yes, yes, here we are all together sharing the oil and sharing the feelings instead of fighting and being so combative with each other. We're all just relaxing together and sharing."
Yes, sharing. That sounds amazing. I don't know why they called this oil macabre. I feel like it should have a different name. It's amazing.
It is amazing. It shouldn't be reserved for only the old and infirm, and we shouldn't be fighting and hurting each other when we can just tongue and lay together.
There's a pulsing, like a throb in the wall of this structure, this muscular cell. And it's like it's a spycraft. It's basically asking for status. Like, are we go?
Yeah. I think she's so interested in like this orgy
the
of
long-
like,
The tongue of this creature is like the whole time just like slurping and swooping over
Exactly.
Sheer's form.
And Sheer's so interested in this idea of sharing and the sort of the reciprocation of everyone being so blissed out, but wanting to share that with each other instead of hoarding it for themselves. When the wall starts pulsing, basically gives the subtle sort of like wait, like hold sign, and then goes to join the group that is tripping out.
But there's a consequence.
Yeah.
You had gentle contact, but their oils and slick are just not totally dripping, but are laced with the oil macabre.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you begin to lose yourself in
Oh, yeah.
sensations and the time. And like what was sort of exquisite pleasure with light tinges of pain, there's explosive bursts as sticklers start busting in through the fleshy walls with the master of tongue like silhouetted behind them, this black orange.
And I'm just
wall.
like the hero, they're just like totally in this like oil bath covered and all these other people are there. It's just this total flesh pot like situation.
Scintillating colors.
Lots of
everywhere.
scintillating colors. Everyone's pregnant, you know. I like totally flounder. Like I should basically probably be fired at this point. Like I'm like I've totally dropped the ball. Like I'm like tripping out. Like I basically am like trying to get them to join us.
Yeah, the Master of Tongues comes and stands over this pool where you're all luxuriating and says, "Get up, Sheer."
Master, it's indescribable. Perhaps you should come down here.
I will not enter this pool, Sheer.
Oh, well, hey, everybody. I think the party's over. The boss is here.
No, stay. Come join us. Ew, it's the Master of Tongues. Come join us, Master of Tongues.
Yeah, and two sticklers reach their hands down to you, and the hands of the other, like of your fellows in the pool, are hands, like appendages
tongues.
and tongues, kind of reach to kind of like gently hold you. So
Yeah.
what do you do?
The spell has been broken, so I'm reaching for those sticklers to try and with my tongue. The sheer is to like get out of here, saying, Another successful mission.
Yeah, they pull you out, and there's a consequence. The master of tongues says, "Hold him." Approach, and they make you watch as the sticklers, as their name implies, shoot out their tongues.
No!
The sort of horny mass that coats their tongues sheds itself at high velocity into the occupants of the pool.
Damn.
And they're like, the fluids in their sac begin to fill the pool.
Oh!
With this, like, the oil is mixed with this, like,
I am tripping out. Sheer is like the connection and the sharing and this very beautiful experience is now being just like destroyed in front of them.
And you can taste their pain and horror
And not
and the
in
pleasure
the good
of
way.
the sticklers.
Not in the good way. The Fallen sets a scene.
All right. The hero's cooled off. If you're in withdrawal, you've been sent on kind of a pissant mission. There's a guy they're calling Candy Mouth who is just all about having as many lozenges as possible.
Mm-hmm.
You are sent to root out this Candy Mouth. And Bloom actually has come to you. Bloom and you are there together because Bloom lost their lozenge
No!
to Candy Mouth, or to someone someone in this thing. And so you've brought Bloom along to help you identify who this person might be.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're entering pleasantly called the spleen,
Got it.
right? And it's this sort of bilious, oozing place.
Less oil, more bile.
A little more bilious, yeah.
Greenish.
Greenish hue, like a little like viscous kind of texture to everything, and it doesn't mix well with the oils. It's a little like it stings to walk around in the spleen, but there are those who keep home there. They're a little more dried out.
Bloom is afraid. Their sort of flesh is vibrating a little, and they're like, "Sheer, I don't know. I don't know if this candy man has my candy.
Well, my friend, we're going to find out. That's for sure.
I mean, it could be anywhere. Anyone could have taken it."
That's true, but this Candyman seems to be the biggest hoarder of them. And if you're able to identify the person who, took your lozenge, that'll help everyone a lot.
But you know how it is. Anybody could have taken it.
Look, I really need to do this and get this done. I'm on the outs right now at work. The Master of Tongues was not very happy when they found me. Oh, you heard?
Everyone knows.
Everyone knows?
We all heard about it.
What?
It was awful. It was really embarrassing for you.
I mean, I guess it's a little embarrassing, but I mean, it was really amazing experience, actually.
What do you mean?
Well, it was, I can't explain it really. I felt so connected to so many of our people at the same time in a different way.
What?
Yeah.
But that's awful. That's not what we're supposed to be about, Sheer. I don't think you should talk about this anymore.
What? What do you mean? Not talk about the great experience I had with these people? It was awesome. It's like, I don't know. I felt a lot closer with them.
You're already in big trouble.
I know.
I don't know. We better hurry up and find my lozenge. That's why we're here.
That's right. That is why we're here. Oh, okay. Here we go. Here, there's some people out front.
Yeah, you guys are not. You're like shinier and oilier than a lot of people in these parts.
Bloom is kind of like, even though they're sort of like more pudgy, is trying to kind of like huddle behind Sheer a little bit to because they're obviously not happy to be in this place.
Mm-hmm. We roll up on them.
Bloom sort of nudges Sheer. You talk to them, since you're so good at talking.
Yep. We walk up and I say, "Hey, we're here to see Candy Mouth."
Like a big dry sack.
Yeah, it's so dry.
muscles,
muscles, yeah.
squishes their way past a couple
forward.
others and goes, "Oh, can you move?" And their like mouth is just full
Oh,
of
God.
like metal lozenges. You want to make a donation?
Do something, Sheer.
And I say, no. Maybe a trade, though.
Oh, listening.
Well, got some of this oil macabre that you might be interested in.
Sheer, you still have some of that stuff?
Oh, I don't know. I never touched this stuff.
I mean,
I'm more into the rare metals.
understandable, but pour this on your corpus, and you will feel the metal in a different way. I guarantee it.
Well, before we make this deal, won't you come a little closer and give me a proper hello?
Of course. Go right in there.
All right, but there's a consequence. When you kiss the candy man,
Candy mouth.
their tongue is like you don't even. There's just a pool of. You can't even see their tongue in this mouth full of like balls of lozenges and candies. But it just like a snake. Like it's not even part. It's this thin little thing with a sucker on the end, and like it's built for this purpose. It just plucks your thing out and pulls pulls your lozenge into its mouth and goes, "Looks like I'm you now, Sheer."
And I say, well, if you're wanting to be me, you definitely need to try the oil.
No.
I've been coating my lozenge in it.
Oh. So have you been coating your
Yeah.
lozenge? All right.
Of course I have been.
There's a consequence to that.
Yeah.
And that Candy Mouth starts tripping out.
Yep.
And the metal starts to spill out of its mouth. And some
Rain
it,
down,
like,
just pouring down.
And some of it like swallows into its form. So you see
So
it.
we
like,
see it in their body.
And it's like weighing down their sack
Yep.
too. It's not something that you're supposed to do.
No, definitely not.
And the others are leaving the area, and his Candy Mouth sort of sways, and now the only lozenge in their mouth is yours that it rolls around on its tongue. And you're watching this, and you're salivating watching this lozenge because you want it back.
Oh,
Like
I go to make out with Candy Mouth again. What are you talking about?
Oh, Sheer, what are you doing?
What?
So you go to make out with Candy Mouth?
I think I'm being pulled back by my friend Bloom, whose voice sort of pulls me back to the moment here, as I say, "Whoa, quickly, let's find your lozenge. Let's sweep this place with our tongues." And my flicking tongue shoots out, and I start sweeping all the lozenges on the ground.
And Bloom sort of like it's obviously still scared, but is like sort of gingerly like poking them with his tongue, trying to sort out the one while keeping like I guess whatever peripheral like sensing part of itself.
Yeah, I
on
think,
the Candyman.
I mean, I think we do find your lozenge amongst the.
Here it is. I found it, Sheer. Let's get out of here.
Say, are you sure you don't want any more of these? I mean, there's a ton of them here.
Oh, well, I guess people are talking about how cool it is to have a few of them around.
I have your pick.
I guess maybe I could take a couple of these. And Bloom starts to kind of like gather up a couple of them with its tongue.
I think we leave. I think we leave at this point.
There's a consequence.
Ah!
You leave without taking a lozenge.
Yeah.
And Candyman is still rolling your lozenge in your
Yep.
mouth. You have there's the emptiness of having kind of given up this candy and a level of your identity. There's like this lack of weight in your mouth. But also on top of that, you had this constant sort of hum, this high going, and you're drawn thin. You're in a heavy bout of withdrawal.
Yeah.
And
the oil macabre. Uh-oh.
and just really feeling thin, weightless, and empty. Right.
Awesome. Okay.
All right. So now we're gonna reflect.
Yep. And so the reflection that I have, Sheer is feeling sort of lost right now. The occupation is becoming less and less important. Whereas the rebellion, the relationship is becoming more important, maybe in a selfish way to some degree. Oil Macabre is really leveraging this desire to have a closer relationship with Bloom and to turn that friendship or whatever into something more.
We interrupt our story here, and we'll continue on our next communique. I was one of your players, John Holt. You can find me on Twitter at Lord Joho and on Instagram at board_ghost. Ken, where can people find you?
Hey, everybody. You can find me, Ken, at Burlingsbeard. On Twitter, I co-host this podcast with John, which is so amazing. And I also am a freelance game master in the New York City area. So if you're looking for someone to run games for you, please do get in contact with me. And thanks so much for listening.
All right, Dee, where can people find you?
I am Dee Gailey, and just like our hero Sheer, my pronouns are they, them. You can find me on Twitter at MXNURD, where I talk about queer stuff and nerdery, and you should tweet me up.
All right. Cool. So to learn more about the engine and players in our story, go check out boardghost.com. You can reach out to us on Twitter at BoardGhostWorld, where you can find out the latest information. And if you'd like to help us in generating more content or just help participating in making the show, go check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/BoardGhost and let people know about the show. Get out there, tell them about it. Help us go up in the rankings by going to iTunes and leaving a review if you like the show. And yeah, that would be fantastic. That would be really helpful. But again, just get people knowing about the show. And that's it. We'd like to thank Pat Couples for our theme song and interlude music. You can learn more about Pat at patcouples.tumblr.com or on his band's website, hotelsandhighways.com. If you're not alone in the void, share our stories. The more they are consumed, the truer they become.
Dying don't agree with me.